Welcome to the Immeasurably More podcast. I'm your host, Erin, here with my mom, who joins me every week. If you are new here, we recently changed the name of our podcast from Light Your Heart with Hope to the Immeasurably More podcast. And if you want to go back and listen to why we changed the name, we shared it a few weeks ago, and we are just excited and believe that God can and does do immeasurably more than all we could ever ask or imagine.
Amen.
But today, we have a really special guest with us, my dad. Hi, Dad.
Hey.
We are so excited to have you on. We have been, to kind of kick off the new Immeasurably More episodes, we have been sharing our testimonies. Mom, you and I have already shared our testimony, and we really wanted to share everyone in our family's testimony. So, Dad, you're up this time, and we are so thankful to have you. So, Mom, before we dive in, is there anything you want to add? Because I know you always have something to add.
No.
Shocker. I too am so excited about us sharing our testimonies. We've never done that.
Not on the podcast.
No,
right.
That's what I'm saying. And we
shared a little bit with our mental health stories, but that's only a piece of our story.
Right. And with Daddy here sharing what he shares when he travels the country, what you call it is a journey of perseverance. And to have you share on the podcast your journey of perseverance, I think will bless so many people. So I'm very excited to have you on the podcast today. I always call you Daddy, which is so, I don't know if oh, well. That's what I call
you say it to us. You really never call him Jim.
No, I mean, I've been calling you Daddy since they were little, since they were kids. But Jim, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you share your journey of perseverance. And we have as much time as you want to share. And your story is so amazing. And there's so many ups and downs, so many things that I don't think the general public has ever heard you share unless they've been at a speaking engagement. But still, I am so excited. And so maybe you can just start off sharing how much you love us, and no, start off sharing, start with growing up, or just start with whatever you want to start with. But I know you have a lot to share, and a lot of it is so valuable.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yep. We all go through, things in our lives, and you guys know, especially Mama or Jill knows that the things that we've been through, things I've been through, but you know what? When I travel the country speaking, I try to share with people out there some of the things that the normalcy that I had as a kid growing up, just like a lot of kids. But mine, started, my dad was raised in an orphanage, or I should say grandpa, never knew his mom or dad. And my father always wanted to play sports, but he was raised in an orphanage, like I said, until he hit his probably late teens, and then he decided that he wanted to do something with his life. So he joined the Navy, and he was in the Navy for a few years. And after he got out of the Navy, he met mom or grandma, and they fell in love, and they decided to get married. And the interesting part about this is my dad never knew his family. My mother had, 2 brothers, and at the beginning, from what I was told and what we understand, that it was tough because my dad worked in the steel mills in Pittsburgh, and he had the dreams of a family, and they wind up getting married, and they wanted kids, and they started out with a son named Pat, son named Ed, and then a son named Ray. They had 3 boys in a row, and my dad is working in the steel mills, and he's like, "Okay, no more kids," and my mom's like, "Oh no, one more try for a girl." And Dad's like, "You got to be kidding me." So they gave her one more try for a girl, had me. Now they have 4 boys. And of course, Dad's like, "Oh, we can't, 4 boys and, everything going on." And then, of course, my mother, being a stubborn, feisty Irish woman, she says, "Oh no, we didn't give her one more try for that girl." They gave her one more try, twin boys. Now there's 6 boys, no girls, and my dad finally got his wish. No more kids.
Oh my goodness.
I love that part of the story.
I do too, especially the fact that they gave it one more try and had
Twins.
not just one more boy. You had twin brothers, Kevin and Danny, the youngest.
And as you all well know, you cannot get a family any closer than ours. I have 5 brothers. We all get along. All my sister-in-laws, you all get along.
Right.
But the thing is, when I was growing up, where I was from is from East Brady, Pennsylvania. I was always a Steeler fan. And of course, I was one of those little kids that would get a match marker and put number 12 on my shirt because we couldn't afford real shirts because Terry Bradshaw was my idol growing up. And I was in the backyard. I was one of those little kids that I would drop back to pass and see, Lynn Swan or John Stallworth out there. I'd throw him a touchdown pass. With 2 minutes to go in the Super Bowl, I'd lead him down the field. Would he win? All those things you do as a little kid, like when you're playing baseball, the dream of hitting that grand slam in the bottom of the ninth to win the World Series. And, well, for me, as we continue to go through our lives, the dreams that we had as little boys, not just me, but all my brothers, what to be good enough to take care of the 2 people we love, and that was Mom and Dad. So my 3 brothers, long story short, my 3 brothers went off to college, and I was being recruited. And where I'm from, you're either Pitt or Penn State, and I've always liked Penn State, so I wanted to go there. And just so the listener out there understands what I'm doing here, I am going through a journey that I was on to get to where I am today. And the struggles, the fun times I have with my family, the ups and downs, the roller coaster. That's why I'm going through my early life. We didn't have much. We fought all the time as brothers. But the thing about it is, when you have 6 boys in a family, of course, that's going to happen. But we kept on going, and now it's time for me to pick college. Penn State did not want me as a quarterback. They wanted me at the last minute, of course. They changed their mind. They signed 2 quarterbacks that they wanted, but they called and they said that we just want to let you know that we've already got the 2 quarterbacks we want, but we'll give you a full scholarship, but as a linebacker. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I don't want to play the linebacker. So, of course, I called my brother Pat. And this is pretty funny. I called Pat and I said,
I
hey,
love
Pat.
this.
I said, Pat, Coach Paterno and Penn State called me, and they decided they already signed the 2 quarterbacks they want, but they decided that they wanted to recruit me as a linebacker. And for a listener out there, I played a linebacker in high school too, and I was being recruited as a linebacker by a couple schools, no major schools, but smaller schools. And I said, Pat, what should I do? And he's my oldest brother, so he was drafted by the Baltimore Colts. He played linebacker, blah blah blah. And he said, real quick, brother, I have a few words of advice for you. He said, before you board those chartered flights, he said, the stewardesses never want to know who the linebackers are. They always want to know which one's the quarterback. I go, that's all I need to hear, brother. I'm a quarterback. Click. I hung up the phone.
Yes.
So there it was.
It's funny. First of all, you used the word stewardess.
The reason I did, because that's what it was called back
Well, that's
then.
what I'm saying.
It's flight
That
attendant,
shows
which
your
I know.
age, but
Shows your age.
And I love, okay, so if I can just interject here. First of all, one of the things that I was most attracted to when I met you is your love for your family. And I love how you are so close to all of your brothers and your mom and dad. Now, of course, they're in heaven, and that you would call your oldest brother Pat and tell him, this is what I'm going through, Pat. You have so much respect for each other. You all do. And that is what I love so much. And, you say you want to fast forward through your growing up and all of that to get to the other parts of your story. But I just want to remind you that every single part of your story is valuable, Jim. And it's that it's part of your journey of perseverance. So I'm just so thankful that you have this full story to share with people and how you did come from nothing. I mean, I remember you sharing with me how you couldn't afford shoes. And so you would have to put, was it Coke? What did you put?
Put cut Clorox bottles in for insoles because we had such big holes in our shoes. And then in the wintertime, we could not even afford gloves. We had to wear white socks as our gloves when we would sled ride.
Right.
Yep. And it's all part of that journey.
Exactly. And I think it's important to understand that and for people to know that and how much you appreciate where you came from. And you're proud that you came from East Brady, which is no one knows where East Brady is. And yet, look what God did. Look what God did with your life, how he brought you from this obscure little town in Pennsylvania called East Brady and brought you to the world stage in the NFL. So anyway, I'll let you go on now with your college experience.
Yeah, exactly. Well, from now, I decided I'm not going to Penn State. So I went to Miami. Lou Saban, who was the head coach of the Buffalo Bills before that. So I'm thinking, okay, Lou Saban, he came up, he recruited me hard. And I liked Miami. I went there and they sold me on it. They sold me on the pro-style offense because, as everybody knows out there, I'm not a running quarterback. So
you're not? Really?
Quite on the set. So the thing about it was, what I wanted to do, I wanted to play quarterback. So I wound up signing in Miami. I could have went to Tennessee and a few others. I canceled my Notre Dame trip. I canceled a couple others. So I wound up going to the University of Miami. Well, when I got there, they decided it was my freshman year that they were going to run the veer offense. And as I just said, I am not running quarterback. So I was mad, very disappointed. And I decided that I was going to transfer out of Miami. I was going to go to Tennessee. And then,
I
did
not.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
See?
And then, again, I called my brother Pat, and I told him what they were thinking. And he said, Jim, I heard that Lou Saban was thinking about leaving the University of Miami because he was notorious for that, going somewhere for just a couple of years and then leaving. And he said, wait and find out what happens. Wait a week or two. So we did. And, of course, my brother was right. Lou Saban left, and who they brought in was the key to my whole career. They brought in a coach by the name of Howard Schnellenberger. And what's so important about that is the quarterback coach that he brought in, his name was Earl Morrall. And for all those men out there that know football from especially, my age or whatever, around my age, they know who Earl Morrall is. Everybody knows in this area, they know the Miami Dolphins. Well, he was the quarterback, the undefeated Miami Dolphins in 1972. But he was my quarterback coach. And now I went from being like fourth string and being ready to transfer. Now I made it to backup. Now I'm backup. They're still giving the guy that was the starter the year before the starting role. And I just kept praying. I said, you know what? If it's God's will, I'll be able to get my opportunity to play. Well, again, I'm fast forward. Now it's my red shirt freshman year. I'm the backup. We're traveling to Penn State to take on the guy that said I was not good enough to play for his team. So we go there, and of course, I see mom and dad the night before the game. We have dinner, we talk, we hug, we love. I get my chocolate chip cookies and all those great things. Well, now it's the day of the game. We're a pregame meal, and this is pretty wild. We're a pregame meal. I'm just finishing my breakfast, and I get a tap on my shoulder. And I turn around, and I looked up, and I go, oh, boy. It's Coach Schnellenberger. He said, son, come with me. I need to speak with you. And I'm like, oh, boy. So I get up. I'm falling to the side, and we walk over. And I'm thinking on the way over, wow, what did I do last night? No, I didn't do it. I had dinner with mom and dad. And I'm thinking, did I do anything wrong last week? I'm thinking, I went to school at the University of Miami. It wasn't boring. So I'm thinking, I go, no, I didn't do anything wrong. Why would he be pulling me to the side? He looks at me, he said, son, I decided you're starting today. I looked at him, I go, what? He goes, I thought about it. I feel you deserve the opportunity. You're starting today. Oh, my word.
My goodness.
My heart went to my feet, and we started walking away, and I said, Coach, I got to go to the bathroom. I went into the bathroom. I threw up. I threw up everywhere. I was in there for like 10, 15 minutes. I don't know how long I was in there, but it wasn't quick. I come out. He waited. I figured he'd walk away. He waited. I walked on. He said, you all right, son? I go, don't worry, Coach. I did that before every high school football game. He goes, okay, then, let's go get them. We beat them. We upset Penn State that day, 26-10. Now, this is a little interesting. So, we beat them. So, the following week, we're taking on Alabama. They're undefeated. We're going to Tuscaloosa. And for all those older gentlemen out there, you remember the guy by the name of Keith Jackson. He was the Hall of Fame announcer, did all the national TV games and all that. And he was doing the game. And here, we were coming in. We just beat Penn State. And we're taking on undefeated Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So here's how Keith Jackson put it. Freshman sensation Jim Kelly taking on the undefeated Alabama Crimson Tide right here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, coached by Paul Bear Bryant. I was 3 for 15, 3 interceptions, and I got knocked out cold in the third quarter. But and then to fast forward, so my first 4 starts was the end of my freshman year was against Penn State, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Florida.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome to big-time NCAA football. And for the listeners out there, just so you know, I came from a little small town, East Brady, where we had about 800 people in my hometown, 0 traffic lights. I had 28 players on my football team, and I had 65 in my graduating class. And now I'm taking on Penn State, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Florida, my first 4 games to play. Hello.
That's crazy.
And that's just, again, obviously in retrospect, at the time you didn't put it in this perspective. You weren't like, oh, look what God can do.
Right.
But in retrospect and looking back at your story, only God could write that story. Only God could do something so amazing and phenomenal. So tell us a little bit more about the end of your college career.
Well, here it was. I'm the starter now. Going into my sophomore year, we wind up winning the Peach Bowl. I got the outstanding player, which is cool. And that dream of being able to make it into the NFL, to take care of mom and dad, to make my 5 brothers proud of me, I was so focused on that. Now I fast forward to my senior year. I'm up for the Heisman Trophy. John Elway, Dan Marino, Herschel Walker, Eric Dickerson. Here I am, a little kid from East Brady up for the Heisman Trophy. I'm like pinching myself. Are you kidding me? So we're doing pretty good. I think we're 3-1. We're playing at Virginia Tech against Bruce Smith and his team. So, of course, I dropped back to pass, and all my receivers recovered. So I started scrambling to the right. And I was trying to get to the sideline to run out of bounds, but I was too slow to get there. And what I should have done was I should have slid. But, being an athlete, at that time, I was an athlete.
You're still an athlete.
What I should have done was slide, but I didn't. I decided to cut back. And when I cut back, I got blindsided. And the guy just drilled me into the ground. And I totally blew out my right arm. And that was the last college football game I ever played. 3 days later, I came out of surgery, and the surgeon said, Jim, I hope you studied. And I said, why is that? He said, because your shoulder was so bad that we had to insert 3 metal rods into your right arm. And he said, you probably will never get your range of motion back. And automatically, I thought of mom and dad. I thought of my brothers, my hometown of East Brady. I can't let them down. And, of course, it really hurt. But you know what? I decided to rehab. And if you ever watch, it's called A Football Life. Coach Snellenberger was there with me the whole time. Mike O'Shea, Frank Rice. These guys helped me rehab my shoulder because I was not going to let mom and dad down. I was not going to let my brothers down. And so I rehabbed like you would never rehab. Now, all of a sudden, now I'm going to fast forward again. Boom. College career's over. And now the draft's coming up. I wasn't able to go to any of I went to the combines, but I wasn't able to work out for the coaches. I was taking physicals, and they wanted to see how my shoulder was. But again, now it's draft day, and I am not sure if there's anybody going to draft. I had a feeling they were going to draft me, but not sure. Went first round, second round, fifth round. Who knew? That was the year that John Elway told the Baltimore Colts, he was the number one, everybody's wanting John Elway. He said, if you draft me, I'm not playing football. I'm going to play for the New York Yankees.
Oh, my goodness.
And
I didn't know that.
So John told the Baltimore Colts that, but they drafted him anyways. And he was disappointed. And again, the story, my football life is pretty cool. So here we are. I'm going from John Elway's getting first pick. It gets fourth pick. It gets the 8th pick. It gets the 9th pick. And my agent said, Jim, is there anywhere you don't want to go? Now you remember everybody. I went to Miami, Florida. I go, oh, yeah. I don't want to play for Green Bay. I don't want to play for the Minnesota Vikings. And I sure don't want to play for the Buffalo Bills. So here's your 12th pick, and it's Buffalo. And I'm like, oh, no, please, God, don't have them pick me. And Pete Rozelle gets up and he said, the 12th pick, first round, tight end from Notre Dame, Tony Hunter. I go, yeah! And I jump up, and of course, I hit my mother, and I go, Mom, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to Buffalo. My agent looked at me and said, hey, relax. You also have the 14th pick. And I'm like, you got to be kidding. And of course, Pete Rozelle gets up. He said the Buffalo Bills select with the 14th pick of the first round. Quarterback from the University of Miami, Jim Kelly. I cried.
You did.
I didn't. No, I literally did not cry. But what I did was, I was bummed out. But you know what? It is what it is. And at least I was drafted. I went back and.
I was going to say, how can you be bummed when you got drafted?
Well, we won't go there. So what happened was I had to do all the interviews, and I called and I said, I can't wait to go to Buffalo. Man, I didn't even know where Buffalo was. I said, I can't wait to turn that program around and, be the quarterback, the leader. Every answer I gave, I lied. I didn't want to go to Buffalo. And as a matter of fact, I didn't. I wound up going and signing with the USFL. I played 2 years there, and I loved it. I really learned the passing game there. And to be honest with you, for all those listeners out there, all the stuff that I said prior to, one of the best decisions I ever made in my life was becoming a Buffalo Bill. The people here are so amazing. The friendship I've built here, all the things that are right here in Western New York, I cherish each and every day, and I still do. And that's why we, as a family, still live here. So that was just a journey through that draft pick and everything.
Well, again, I have to refer to God on this. And because obviously you didn't have a relationship with Jesus at the time, and he wasn't even on your radar screen or mine at the time.
He was on radar. I was a Catholic. I went to church. I did all the praying, But,
right, but you didn't have a relationship. We'll get to that. But what's amazing to me is how, you chose one direction and God was like, yep, nope, you're going to come back in this direction. And even with your injury, the doctor told you hopefully you studied because you're not probably going to play football ever again.
And I did. I graduated with a business management degree, which is good. Thank God for that.
Have you ever used it?
Thank God.
You
no.
do. No, you should do with your business.
To a certain point, yes.
Maybe a little bit.
I was just blessed that I had the people around me to play the game of football.
Right. And the people to encourage you. And Aaron and I often talk about community and having people around you. And you've been surrounded by incredible people who have built you up and it helped you to become the man that you are. And you've said it at least 4 or 5 times in this conversation so far and I love when you say this because you always had in mind that you were going to fight and you were going to persevere because you wanted to take care of your mom and dad. And there's a lot to be said about that, and that you've wanted to take care of your brothers. And, you and I met in 1991, and we'll get to that, but I've watched you take care of your mom and dad and your brothers for as long as I've known you. And, so that is what drove you to continue to do what you wanted to do. And it brought you to the NFL eventually after the USFL. So eventually you did end up a Buffalo Bill.
Yep, which really was awesome. And so came a Buffalo Bill, run out on the field. People always ask me, do you have a favorite game? I go, yeah. New York Jets, first game of my NFL career at home at Rich Stadium. I remember running on the field and pointing up to mom and dad because I finally made it. I made it into the NFL. Mom and dad were able to kick back, relax, enjoy life, retirement. Didn't have to work another day in their life. My brothers all there. And if you know my brothers, they're wackadoodles. They're all crazy. They still are. We still have fun. We still love it. But, that was probably the best game of my life. As far as I was proud because I was able to make it, fight, and come back from the injury, come back from being in a little small town. Here I am in the NFL now. But as I go through my career, I fast forward. And I remember we wind up beating the Raiders 51-3 in the 1990 playoffs. And it was the AFC Championship game to go to our first Super Bowl. And I know the listeners out there, they're thinking back to what happened and all the things. And yeah, I do too. I try not to think about them all the time. But of course, around late January, early February, you start thinking about those things. But for me, here it was, we're playing the New York New York Giants and Super Bowl 25. And that was back during the Gulf War.
Right.
I mean, the helicopters are flying over the stadium. The snipers were on top of the stadium. It was amazing. I mean, from what I remember, I had to go through the radar for...
Yeah.
What's that called?
Security?
Radar.
Radar.
Security to make sure that nobody's carrying anything, blah, blah, blah. Well, I remember walking out in the field with Steve Tasker, and we looked, and we're looking around. As soon as we walked out, I mean, the flash bulbs just going off, and thinking, I can't believe I made it here. And, excited. So here we are. I'm going to fast forward again, right through. Now it's 2 minutes to go in the game. 2 minutes to go in the Super Bowl. I'm on the sidelines. And I think we're backed up to the 10-yard line. And before I took the field, in my mind, I went, wow, I went through this as a little boy in my backyard. I dreamt about this period. And it's happening.
Right.
I'm a quarterback on a Super Bowl team, leading my team down with 2 minutes to go in the Super Bowl, doing it. I go, wow. So I take the field, pass to Andre, some big runs by Thurman, a big scramble for, I think, 1 yard by me. No, but we get down the field. We get down there inside the 30-yard line, 28, somewhere around there. And Scott comes out, and like 11 seconds to go in the game. You know what? I don't even know how many seconds were left in the game. That's how much. I have not watched that game ever since. But to make a long story short, it was the last kick of the game to win it. And I had all the confidence in the world Scott Norwood would make it. All the confidence. I knew he would. Well, he kicks it. And from where I was standing, it looked like it went through. But as soon as I looked over, I saw the guy that was rushing the kicker. He looked up, he saw it was going wide right, and we wind up losing. And how that hurt. It hurt not so much from my standpoint, but from a standpoint of Mom and Dad. My brothers were all there, letting them down. And the city of Buffalo, I wanted to do so much for the city. And it didn't work out. But the thing is, I just fought back, and here we are. I don't know, Mommy, whether you want to get into, going into 1992 when we met, or you want me to hit the 4 Super Bowls in a row and go from there?
Yeah, I would say go, keep going.
Okay.
I just want to add about what you just said about wanting to do so much for the city of Buffalo. And I believe that you've done more for the city of Buffalo than 4 Super Bowls, 100 Super Bowls ever could.
I agree.
And I have always said, because people say to me, they're like, yeah, your dad, the years, you lost all 4 Super Bowls. And I'm like, okay, when are you going to get over it, first of all? And second of all, no team has done it since then. So I kind of brag with that. But I absolutely believe, and Mom, you and I have had these conversations, and Dad, I believe we've had these conversations too, just that so many people before, and we're going to get to everything else that you've gone through, but so many people know you as the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills and all that you did, and Hall of Fame and all of those things. And yet I feel like more people now, they know more about your story, what God has done through your story, and the struggles and the perseverance. And so, I mean, obviously, let's go back to the Super Bowls, but I just wanted to add that because I think it's so important to remember that you did so much for the city of Buffalo, and you still do. People here love you, and they know that you are in the city. I mean, Buffalo it's like a family town, I feel like, and you are so much a part of it. And I think that's bigger than any Super Bowl. So
very well said, Aaron, and I do appreciate that. And the thing about it is, when you're a leader, whether it's a business, whether you're a coach, whether you're the quarterback, when you go through tough times, you have to step up. You have to get people to believe in what you believe. And what he did, I mean, we believed that we were good enough to win it. So we'd wind up going back again. The second year, we'd lose again. Going back to third year, we lose again. And now we're on the off season, third year from 1993, and we're just thinking about everything, and it's the off season and all the negativity you hear. That congratulations, you guys did a heck of a job. I know you didn't win, and then you hear the people that never say it to your face, but they say it, on radio shows now, saying, yeah, but they lost all 4. Yeah, but we went 4 in a row. But the thing is, for me, going into that season, going into our 4th Super Bowl, right before this season started, I wasn't sure how my teammates were going to handle this, because I knew how much I heard it, but I knew I was the quarterback. I knew I was the leader. I knew I was the captain, that I had to make sure that I was able to be the guy that they saw the last 3 years. So I go into training camp. And I know Bruce and Thurman and Kent and all those guys would work out. They would lift weights and get ready for the season because that's what you do. You prepare yourself for that physical part. But not knowing the mental part of what they heard during the off season, were they going to let it bother them? First day of training camp, Marv got up and he started talking to us. When I left that meeting that day and I talked to some of my teammates, I knew they were ready. They didn't care. Whatever they heard in the offseason ticked them off, and that's not usually the word I use. It ticked them off more than anything because they knew that we had a good football team, and our motto was, let's tick everybody off. Let's go for 4 Super Bowls in a row. And we did. And we didn't win it yet. But the thing about it is, going through that whole era of 94 and everything, I'm so proud of the teammates I had, the closest that we had. And no matter what it is, for all those listeners out there, you have to make sure that you surround everybody with good character and have everybody understand where you're coming from. Be the leader. And for me, that's what I had to do. But I was so blessed to have other people around me. It was tough, at the beginning, but we were able to do it. We all pulled together, and we, as you know, Mommy, today we are probably one of the closest as far as when you look at a family, Bruce, me, Thurman, Andre, and Will Wolford, Steve Tasker, Cornelius, Ben. I can go on and on. The closest that we have, but it starts at the top, and that top was Marv Levy, our coach. He was amazing. He wasn't a rah-rah, screaming, get in your face, but whatever he said, and whatever came out of his mouth, we knew that he meant business, and we were ready to rock and roll.
I love when you talk about your teammates too, because I know that when you're in the other room at the house and you start laughing, it's usually because you're looking at your group text with your buddies, and you guys are still so close. And I really think I have to say that, and we can maybe segue into the part where you and I met in 1991, because what I saw was it was a family. You guys are more of a family than you were even teammates. And I think you have so much to do with that. In fact, I think because you led the team so well on the field, but you were also a leader off the field for your teammates. You would have parties at your house after every home game. And again, in retrospect, I think that is what made you guys more of a family than a bunch of teammates, because it wasn't just on the field. You actually spent time together and you loved each other.
It wasn't just the players too. Their family would come.
Right.
If they're out of town guests, they would come. And a good thing about Bruce, which is one of my favorite buds, he would go sit with my mother for a half hour, 45 minutes before he went down to the party and sit and talk to her. My mother treated Bruce like he was her 7th son. He was awesome. Not only that, my mother suffered from emphysema, and Bruce's dad suffered from emphysema. And so they had to common thought there with how both of them were going through some tough times. But Bruce will never forget all the times he went up and talked to Mom, how it made her day. She looked forward to, after the game, Bruce coming up and talking to her. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I loved, and I witnessed that. So all the things that you're saying, like I was there and I remember seeing that. And not only that, Bruce and Thurman and Andre, and when you were in New York City and you were going through what you went through with your cancer battle, they were there. They came to the hospital, they came to the hotel room to see you, so, and they continue to be there for you. And you guys are, no matter what it is, you support each other. And I love that so much.
Okay, let's get to the point where we met.
I was going to say, you brought up the parties at his house.
Okay.
So
there's always two
segue.
sides, right? There's always two sides to every story. So
I'll let you have it.
Are you sure? Because this is like your podcast. Okay. So I had just graduated from college, and there was a game, and I was invited by my friend, and I were invited to a party at Jim's house. We were invited by a friend who knew a friend who knew a friend, because it wasn't like you could just go to a party at Jim Kelly's house. This was the Super Bowl years. If you can try to put it in context, obviously there was no social media and all that kind of stuff at the time, but you were the Super Bowl quarterback. I mean, it was a big deal. And, I didn't live under a rock. I knew that you existed. I knew the team was doing well. And so my friend and I, when we were invited, we were like, yeah, we're going to go to this party. And so we went right after the game because there was a home game. We went right to the party. And that is where we met. And of course, we were freaking out. My friend and I were freaking out because here we get this invitation. And what do we think we're even doing there? And it was all that you can imagine it was. All of the players were there and there were a lot of girls there. And so that was intimidating, but to say the least. And so eventually I was introduced to you. I remember exactly where it was. And we were introduced and you said to me, you've had the most beautiful green eyes. And which was cute. Like I was blessed by your compliment, but I'll also in the back of my mind, I'm thinking there's like 100 girls here. And you probably said that to every other girl too.
No, I did not. And hold on.
Okay.
Because when I first saw you, you walked in with cowboy boots on. You had jeans. You had a baseball hat on. You had bright green eyes. What the heck? I go, she's not from Buffalo.
Oh, poor Buffalo girl.
Not from that. Because the thing is, I've never met you before.
Right.
That's why I'm thinking, okay, she must have came from out of time because I've never seen her before. Go ahead.
And so then, the night's going on and my friend's having a little bit too much to drink. I'm noticing that. But, we're still having fun. And then all of a sudden I start getting pegged with ice cubes from across there. I'm like, oh my goodness,
I love this
who's
part of the story.
throwing ice cubes at me? Well, it's the quarterback throwing ice cubes at me, of course.
I completed every ice cube.
Exactly.
You did. You hit me every time. And so I'm like, oh my goodness. And so then I'm thinking he's flirting with me. Like he's definitely flirting with me. And, nothing transpires really at all in the ice cube throw. But you came up to me during the middle of the night and you said, hey, I know it's kind of hot in here. Do you want to get some fresh air? And I was like, no, I'm good. That's okay. Because in the back of my mind, honestly, I'm just telling you, I'm being honest. Like I didn't want to be one of those girls. And when I say those girls, I don't even know how to exactly put that in, context, but that I saw the other kind of girls that were there. And mind you, I didn't know who they were. I didn't know anything about them, their character, or anything like that. But I certainly felt that they'd probably go get fresh air. And I was not gonna go get fresh air. So the end of the night comes around and my friend had way too much to drink and I knew we had to go. And so I came up to you and I said, hey, we're gonna take off, but it was so nice to meet you. Thank you so much. What a great party. And you were like, hey, but yeah, thanks for coming, but how do I get a hold of you? And I was like freaking out inside. I'm like, well, you don't, but it was so nice to meet you. And I left the party.
This is the best part of the story.
I didn't give you my phone number. And mind you, again, there's no social media. I don't even have a cell phone. Like I live with my mom and dad at home. So I left. And as we're walking to the car, my friend who's drunk, she's like, I'm going back and giving him your number. I said, no, you're not. No, you're not going back and giving him my number. Anyway, and then I left. I don't know if you want to tell your side.
No, that's good.
Wow. Normally you correct me.
Yeah, because sometimes a little BS goes a long way.
Oh.
No, it was pretty much the same way. But after that, all good. And then I heard that you broke up with your boyfriend.
Okay.
And I found out where you worked.
Yes.
You worked at Fox Valley Country Club.
Yes.
Yep. And I found out, I sent you flowers and I said, just have lunch with me, something, just, and she did. And the rest is history. 28 years later and 3 children later, here we are today.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah,
I love that story.
He did. He called me at work, but of course I didn't know who it was. And I was like,
oh, but you did know who it was, but you played your cards, right?
I did. I will say
I can actually say this part because you've said this before in your testimony because I've heard it many times in your story. And Dad, you call and you're like, hi, this is Jim. And she was like, well, Jim who? Oh my gosh. You were just like, I love it. Jim who? You knew exactly who was calling you. Let's be honest.
And I played it off too. Of course, I said Jim Kelly. And said, oh, how you doing? And wound up having lunch, dinner, and as I'd stated before. So let's move on with this one.
Yeah, that was quite a whirlwind. So we meet in 1991. And I
would just want to say, to listen to the rest of your story. If you haven't listened to your testimony yet, listen to that.
listen to my side of the story, please. Yeah, but Jim and I met in 1991, and then let's talk about your retirement from the NFL.
Well, after going to the Super Bowls 2 years later, I wind up with I think they said, fifth concussion. And it was a playoff game against Jacksonville in 1996, and I wind up getting a concussion. That was the last game I ever played. I decided that I wanted to give up the game that I loved. I wanted to be able to kick back, relax, enjoy life. At the time, I was very, very blessed. We had Aaron.
Yes.
In 1995. We got married. And the thing about it is, when I announced my retirement, Jill was pregnant. And 2 weeks later, I think it was like January 31st, and she was pregnant. And it was hard for me to retire from the game I loved. I played all my life. And here we were moving on with our life. Things are going to start to change. Live that father life, to have another, hopefully a boy. Sorry, Aaron. But I have, and I'm so blessed that you're my daughter. You're the best. But so here it was, you were pregnant, and 2 weeks later on Valentine's Day, which is my birthday, Jill, as a matter of fact, let's rewind just a little bit. Jill decided to go to her doctor's and have a sonogram to check on the baby, and it's the one time that I could not go with her. And the doctor says, Jill, where's Jim? Well, he couldn't make it today. And she looks at Jill and said, would you like to know the sex of the child? She was like, yeah. I'm like, really? We decided we weren't going to find out. Okay. So again, I'm blessed to have Aaron already. And here it was, Valentine's Day. We're sleeping, and Jill wakes me. She said, Jim, my water broke. And I'm like, oh, we got to go to the hospital now. And I'm like, okay. So we wind up zipping off to the hospital. We go in there, and we've already been through the Lamaze classes with you, Aaron. So I pretty much had a good idea, what to do and how to coach and all that. So Jill, push, and everything's going great. And I'm going to tell it like it is.
Please do.
When that baby's coming out, the only thing I looked at was right between the legs. I said, please be a stick figure. I wanted a boy so bad. Because on the way to the hospital, I'm thinking, wow, my brother Danny just had his son born 11 days ago. And his name was Zach. And just think if I had a boy, Zach and Hunter. When they were playing football, Zach would wear number 83, Hunter would wear number 12. And when they were playing baseball, one would pitch, the other one would catch. When we're off hunting out in the woods, Zach would be in the left tree stand and Hunter in the right tree stand, and I'd be in the middle, just helping with that. The game plan was done. The script was already written. Please be a boy. And when that boy came out, oh, my word, talk about excitement. You'd thought I would just won 4 Super Bowls in a row. But I cut the umbilical cord, and of course, I'm hugging my baby. I can't believe I had a boy born on my birthday, Valentine's Day. And how exciting that was. And I think one of the first people I called, as you all know, Jill, was Thurman. Because Thurman already had 2 girls. So I wanted to rub it in a little bit. Hey, Thurman! And he didn't answer the phone, so I left a message. Thurman, just want to let you know that I had a boy born today on my birthday. Thurman, did I tell you it was my son, a boy? I just messing with him. And so I was excited. And I was excited for Jill. I was excited for me, of course, who wouldn't want a son born on Daddy's birthday? And especially Valentine's Day. And to have a child come out, he went through all the screen tests. He passed everything. And unfortunately, within the first couple months, we noticed that he was having a lot of issues, and he was not reaching any milestones. Do you want to go from here, Joe?
Well, yeah, and I just also want to just go back a touch too, because, and I share this I already shared this. So again, go back and listen to my testimony and my faith journey. But I want to share this about you in particular, Jim, because this is your episode. But when I found out that I was pregnant with Erin, the hostess of immeasurably more. I was so scared because we were not married and I did not know how you would handle it. And I just want to say to you again, it's not something we talk about ever. Maybe we talked about it a few times, but you handled it so impeccably well. You were gracious and kind and loving. And I was so afraid, I didn't know what you would say or what you would do. And you were so excited. And you said, I've always wanted to have children and we're going to be okay. I just didn't think it would happen so soon. But the fact that that's part of our story is so beautiful because God is a God of redemption and he has redeemed our entire lives. And that is part of that. And Erin has shared her own story, which, and her story is part of God's redemption for you and I, Jim. And so anyway, I didn't want to fly by, the story of Erin's life. And it's hard because there's so much to share. Your story is so full and jam-packed with so much. But yes, when I found out that I was pregnant again and you were retiring from football, that was such a crazy season for us because I knew that I was going to have a boy. I kept the secret. I only told my brother, Jack. I didn't even tell my mom, which is crazy. She's my best friend. And when Hunter was born, it was like you had won all 4 of those Super Bowls, if not more, because you come from a family of 6 boys. We already talked about that. And all of your hopes and dreams would continue through your son, Hunter. And that wasn't the case. And we knew that something was terribly wrong with Hunter, even though he passed all of his newborn screening tests and all of that. We knew that something was very wrong because we had a healthy daughter before that. And so we knew, and, I'll never forget, and I'm sure you won't either, when we went in for Hunter's well visit when he was 3 months old, we just went in to get him checked, like measurements and weight and, vaccines and all the things that you do at a well visit. And the doctor, who wasn't our normal doctor, looked at both of us and said, your son is showing signs of cerebral palsy. And you and I we were so devastated because, wait a minute, wait, what? Cerebral palsy. And I know for us, at least we knew because you had done so much work through your charity foundation, Kelly for Kids, prior to that, for children with special needs. And so, in our minds, we also knew that there was a lot we could do with a child that had CP. And so you and I started that journey. First and foremost, we just started all the things, early intervention, or all the therapies, physical therapy, occupational therapy. We started that when Hunter was just 3 months old. I don't know if you remember all of that before he was actually diagnosed with Krabbe, but I don't know if you can go ahead and hop in.
I remember all that. And one of the things I do remember as time went on and the unconditional love that we gave our son, because that's what you do with your children, the unconditional love. We had Erin, we had Hunter. And then, just a short time after, we wind up having Cameron also. So we had 3, and with a special little boy named Hunter. I remember when Hunter was probably a little over a year, I remember Grandma saying, or your mother saying to us, quit treating him like he's dying. Because I remember every morning we would wake up, we would think it's just going to be the day that Hunter goes to heaven. And from that point on, all the things were happening in my life. We were blessed. We had a beautiful daughter named Cameron. Thank the good Lord for her. But as time continued to go on, this is where you, as a mother, as a wife, seeked the Lord. You changed your whole life for God because you knew that you were not going to get through it unless you had help. And your help was through God and, of course, your mother. But for me, I went the opposite way. You seek the Lord, I ran from the Lord. I was mad. I mean, I look back in my whole life that what I went through, from blowing my shoulder out my senior year to, of course, being drafted by Buffalo, but of course that turned out to be the best part about it. But going through that and then going to 4 Super Bowls and not winning any of them, and then having a son born on my birthday and have him diagnosed with a fatal illness, all these negative things were happening. When you ran to God, I ran away. And I was mad. All the things that were happening to me before were piling on now. I started having other things happen, ups and downs. When they talk about a roller coaster ride, I had that. And I'm not going to go through all the detail. But I remember being picked to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2002, I was excited because when I was picked to go there, I prayed every day from that January, late January, when I was selected to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I prayed every day that when August would come, my son Hunter would be there with Daddy. He would be on that field with Daddy. And my dream came true. Hunter was right there with you, Cameron, Mom. Probably the hottest day ever in Canton, Ohio. I think it was like 96
So
degrees
hot.
or something like that. But had my son there with me. And he never got a chance to run out on a field like Daddy did and hear this crazy, screaming, wild fan. But he got to hear him that day in Canton, Ohio, when I was inducted, where the cheers for my son Hunter was right there. And I love it. Probably one of the most important, no, I shouldn't say important, one of the most memorable times that I cherish was that day, not because I was going into Hall of Fame, because Hunter was there with Daddy.
Let's just rewind a little bit. Okay, so you're already to the Hall of Fame, and it was so incredible. Yes, it was hot, but it was so incredible to have Hunter there. But I just want to rewind a little bit because we didn't really explain what Hunter was diagnosed with and what happened. And then a little bit of, starting the Hunter So Foundation and newborn screening. So let's just touch on that a little bit. And this is going to have to be a part 2.
Oh, for sure.
Because there is so much, and your story is so full and so amazing that we're definitely going to do a part 2. So let's just talk a little bit about Hunter's diagnosis. First, initially, we were told that he had CP, but he continued to get worse. It eventually took me over an hour to feed him an ounce of formula. We knew something worse was wrong. I mean, we just knew that it could not just be CP. So we continued to press in, ask the doctor what's wrong. We continued to share what was happening at home. And she suggested we go to a neurologist, which we ended up doing. So when Hunter was 4 months old, we went to a neurologist at the Children's Hospital of Buffalo, and she told us that she was going to test Hunter for a family of diseases called leukodystrophies. You and I couldn't even say that name or word at the time. Leuka what? Like, what does that even mean? And yes, we had the internet at the time, but there was very little information on the internet, because I remember as soon as we took him in to be tested, they did blood work. And as soon as we got those tests done, I wanted to know, what is this all about? Like, what do you mean leukodystrophies? What do they do? There's so many of them. They all affect the white matter in your brain. And so we were pretty confident, because when we looked up on the internet about these kind of diseases, first of all, they were all fatal. And they're all genetic.
Yeah.
And you and I both come from very healthy families. So we were pretty confident going into the results of the test, because, well, there's nothing like this on either side of our family, and they're fatal. So there's no way that our minds or our hearts were going to receive any sort of fatal diagnosis for Hunter. It was just too beautiful a story. Your son born on your birthday. We would not receive that information. However, I'll never forget that day. It was a summer day. You and I drove down to Children's Hospital. Your brother Danny was there. Our pediatrician was there. And that's when Dr. Duffner sat across the table from us and told us that your son Hunter has been diagnosed with Krabbe Leukodystrophy. She went on to explain that, and that there is no treatment or a cure for this disease, and he will probably not live to see his second birthday. I will never forget. I imploded. Like, in my heart, in that moment, I absolutely imploded. And I knew that you weren't going to save the day, because there was no cure. At the same time, I'm thinking, this is Jim Kelly's son. We have influence. We know people. We can go anywhere in the whole wide world to take Hunter. We have money. We can pay. We can do. And nothing was the answer. But for me, that was the turning point. That's when, like you said, I started to run after God, because there was no earthly thing for me to help our son Hunter. And that's even, I think, too, where our marriage hit a really difficult place too, because we started running in different directions.
Yeah, because you were staying with Hunter because he was 24-hour day care with the nurses. I was working, the first one I think was with NBC as a color analyst, and then I wound up going to ESPN working on a studio show with Chris Berman and Tom Jackson. I was away all the time. So to me, every time I came home, what happened was every time I'd walk in my door, there would be like 4 or 5 people there every time. And you slept with Hunter. So we were never, ever together. And everything we started going our own direction.
Right.
And that's when, again, you talked about seeking God and I ran. So I was more off on my own.
Right.
And you were home completely 100% into taking care of Hunter, making sure everything was well with him. Because I knew when I left, I knew that Hunter was in the best hands. I knew what type of mother you were. I knew the nurses that we had there. I knew everything about that. But I wanted that privacy. I wanted to be able to act like a real family, a regular family. And yeah, selfish on my part, without a doubt. But I look back on it, and I was young. I was still young, and we were, and going through all this. And I think it even got to a point where just listening to you every time I come home, I even said to you one time, if being a Christian is being like you, I don't want to be one. And that was a time where it probably hit home with you that this is not going to work out.
Right.
And as time continued to go on, and as we talked about before, about as the century turned, the times have turned, all the things that continue to happen in my life, I knew that things weren't going well, but would continue to go on because Hunter was there. You were taking care of him. I was out doing my thing. 2002 came to Hall of Fame. 2005 comes. This is probably one of the toughest moments of my life. So,
and I think let's share that in the next episode, because there's so much more to share. And Aaron, I know that you have a lot that you want to add to.
Yes, definitely. I think this needs to be a part 2. This has been an amazing part 1. And Dad, thank you for all that you have shared. I have listened to your testimony many times, but I did learn a few more things that you haven't shared before. So I'm really excited to get into part 2 and just all that you'll share about your faith and everything that God has walked you through and our family through. So yes, please stay tuned for part 2. We are so excited, and continue on this journey with us.
And because we have to do a part 2, you know that this is immeasurably more. Jim.
It is immeasurably more.
Right.
That's the beautiful thing. Your testimony, your story, your journey of perseverance is immeasurably more than any of us could have ever imagined. Would you like to end us in prayer, Jim? He's like, no. Aaron.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for us being able to share our story, me being able to share my story. Thank you for the women that I have in my life, my wife, my 2 daughters. I am so blessed. I'm so blessed that Aaron's able to have this podcast, because there's a lot of people out there going through ups and downs in their life. But I just want everybody to know that God's there for you. Sometimes it takes a little time, which you will find out in the next segment that we do, that even a quarterback that, had a lot and then lost a lot, he's redeeming himself through God to be a difference maker. So thank you, Lord, for all you've done for us. In your precious name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen.